How's your mind doing? Is that a question you ever ask yourself? Are you meditating? We got to start over. 2020 has been a struggle for all of us. There's not one person in this country that can't say 2020 has been easy. It hasn't. In fact, we started the year off thinking we were going to war with Iran. And little did we know, a pandemic and race riots would take over our entire country and everything we do and say. It's pretty intense. I'm not just doing it for theatrics because it's a show. No, it's crazy. Your mindset is everything, how you go about your daily life. So let me ask you, do you meditate? Do you practice yoga? Are you moving your body and being physically active? If you're answering no to those questions, it might be affecting your mindset. Today we have an expert to come on and talk about how mindset and having the right one sets everything great. Let's learn more coming up next. I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. We got a good one for you today, and I know you're snarkily saying, Eric, you say that every day. But truly, every day is a beautiful day. That's because it goes with my mindset. That's right, the topic today is mindset. Let me tell you a story. About 3 years ago, I was a miserable, overweight, just bitter human being. True story. But I changed it all. I wasn't happy when I looked in the mirror. I wasn't happy mentally. I wasn't happy physically. Well, what did I do? I fixed it. I got my head on right. I went back into the treasure trove of how to set your mind right and got some good advice. The number one advice I had is don't let people own space in your head that don't belong. See, when you grow a business, you go through a lot of stress. Being in a family, marriage, children growing, family stuff, dealing with many things that are called everyday life wear on you, and you have to have the right mindset. In 2020, it basically said, hold my beer. We're going to show you what you really need to deal with when it comes to your head. We're all dealing with our different mindsets, and keeping a positive spin on life can be struggling, from what you see on social media to what you watch on the news. It's hard these days, and we all know it. Today's guest is here to talk about how you can set your mind right and get that mindset that will not just make your personal life good, but your business life good. So let's get to today's guest and get to the point with Pam Christensen. Welcome to the show, Pam. How you doing today?
I'm really good. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. I don't have very many complaints. I mean, it's hard to say that in 2020, and I'm sure you've heard that from people. 2020 is a struggle for a lot of Americans. Well, actually, not just Americans. I think a lot of people in the country or the world are dealing with just kind of craziness, right? I mean, we already had that issue. A lot of people struggling with getting their minds right before 2020. You know, and we all kind of were nervous going into 2020. As we all know, there's an election this year, which adds to the circus. And we started the year off with almost going to war with Iran, which always kind of puts everybody on edge. And then COVID-19 happens. And a lot of people forget Iran happened. Like, they forget that we were going through that because COVID this is still the longest March on record. I know it's March, August now, but that's still March to me because we're still here. I feel like we're doing the same things we were doing in March. So let's talk about how did you get into basically breaking down mindsets, like understanding how to put people in a positive. It's a great thing to do, trust me, because people don't think about how their mind kind of controls everything, especially in the era of social media. So Kind of tell us how you got into, kind of tell us a little bit about your background briefly. We don't want to people don't want to be over-scienced.
You don't want a book?
We don't want a book. No books. Cliff
You
Notes
can read the
version.
book when it comes out.
There you go.
Okay, so basically, I got into it by healing my own mindset. And it was a very personal journey for me. And when I realized at a certain point where my mindset, it's always growing and changing, but where it was where I felt solid and I wanted it to be, I realized that, wow, so many other people were living just like I was living, unhappy, limiting beliefs, self-doubt, question their self-worth, their potential. And why wouldn't I want to share this ability and this potential and this gift with others who then can change their own lives, but also it's all about the ripple effect. So I went through some trauma, and then I went through also your garden variety challenges and obstacles that kind of every time you get knocked down, when you try to get back up, it's very difficult. And so I got to the point where I was so sick of being down that I decided I was going to level up. And when I did that, I really studied the ability to level up by changing and shifting your mindset. And it takes work, but it also takes work to stay low. The thing is, one is more active and one is more passive. So when you're staying in that mindset where you're not feeling good about yourself or your life or opportunities out there, that's more passive. You're a passenger in the car and you're just letting your life take you. When you decide you want to shift it to something more upbeat, more positive, more open-minded, abundant-oriented, that takes work because you have to make that shift happen. But once you do the work and you get to a certain place, again, you keep growing, but the work isn't as challenging because it becomes second nature to you. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I love that because we talk about mindset and we talk about getting yourself down. And I see a lot of people who live in that world on social media. I mean, it's probably one of the scariest places to go turn on because at any given time you could watch almost like a war break out on social media. It's very negative. I know myself, I put a personal calling out that I would not post anything negative, period. I mean, the only thing I might talk smack on is sports. I'm an avid baseball fan, so making fun of the Houston Astros for cheating is something that I will talk about. And football season's coming, and I'm a Niner fan. And, well, we just talk about football. So I don't think smack talks in sports is a negative thing. It's just part of being a sports fan. But all the other things that come out, right? Everybody isn't, I always say that everybody's a Google University graduate when it comes to COVID-19, race relations. What else are they good at? Oh, explosions in Beirut. People are also experts on that. Everybody's become an expert, and nobody likes to have a different opinion. And I always say it's funny because people talk about haters, right? I'm sure you've heard this term. And I think a lot of people focus on that, which becomes a negative thing. And something I was taught a number of years ago was don't let people in your head that don't pay rent. It's a very simple term. What's your thoughts on that? Like people letting all this outside noise into their head and it almost consumes them when literally they have no skin in the game to even be concerned about things.
Well, first of all, look at the people who you're letting in your head. Check yourself with them and see, do you value their opinion? Do you like their life? Not the image they portray or what they say their life looks like or what it's like on social media, but do you value them? And there are some people that I do value, very few people, their opinions. Like my kids would be 3 of them, but very, very few people. So I actually always go inward as opposed to outward. And once you go inward and you realize the answers are all inside of yourself and you do the work on yourself to find them, it's just that we've been conditioned and it's not your fault. It's not people's fault. We have been programmed to look outside of ourselves at the consumers, the advertisers, our friends, our family, what everyone else is doing, assuming that their life is better than ours and that they know. They don't know. No one has a clue. The only person that knows what's best for you is you. But you can't even know that until you do the work on yourself so that you can hear the voices inside of you telling you what's right. Right now, you're in a place where you think, oh, going out and drinking is the best thing, or looking a certain way, or getting like something that makes you feel good about yourself, but none of that, that's all gravy. So all of that stuff can have a place. It's not that it doesn't belong at all, only if you feel really good about yourself inside and who you are and where you are.
I love that you talk about that because I think, and let's deep dive into this because people understanding internal happiness. And I posted a comment about the most important person, I think I've said it on the show a number of times, the most important person to make sure you take care of first is yourself. And
Always.
That goes with your mental health, physical health, For myself, I talk about a journey that started 3 years ago where I decided I didn't like the person I saw in the mirror, and he was causing a lot of, like, I was like, why am I so angry? Like, I would wake up angry. I wouldn't really have, I mean, I have a beautiful family, beautiful wife. I'm blessed. I mean, I don't have anything to complain about in outward looking, but I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, man, who is this dude? And I was like, well, I didn't like the dude because he was fat. That was my words. I was fat shaming myself. But I was like, well, you know how to work out, bro. You were in the Marine Corps. It's not like you're like never understood physical fitness, and you played sports. So I kind of jumped into that. For my journey was adding not just working out, but also I added meditation, which changed my life, was really owning my own time. And a lot of people look at me like, you do yoga and meditation besides working out? I'm like, absolutely. It's the best hour and a half of my life, not including my workout, is that my Zen time. My Eric goes off into his own zone. Nobody talks to me. I plug 2 headphones in my ears, and you might as well act like I'm not even sitting in the room. I mean, why do so many people fight this, like, taking care of themselves mentally? Why is it human nature to drive to help other people before you take care of yourself?
Well, we are creatures of habit. We've been taught to distract ourselves, number one. So when we're taking care of other people and not ourselves, we don't have to face our own demons, our own darkness, and work on our healing, which isn't easy. Once you get to the other side, it's great, but going through it isn't easy. The second thing is we like to be martyrs. Oh, we're so great. We did for everyone else. Resentfully, of course, and complaining about it and telling everyone how great we are for doing for everyone else. And that's sort of where we create an identity for ourselves. But when you really fully take care of yourself, and meditation is huge, and people don't even understand what meditation means. But when we take care of ourselves, we give ourselves the gift of being able to truly give to others without feeling resentful, without having to brag about it. I mean, the things that we can do for people and never even speak words of it are life-changing, but you can't do that until you're a complete, whole, loving person towards yourself. You have to be your own best friend. And just to touch on meditation, meditation can take different forms. It doesn't have to be what the monks did. It can be, and that's a beautiful way to do it, and I do a lot of that, but there are lots of ways to meditate. Meditation is really being present with your own thoughts, acknowledging them, noticing them, and then releasing them, and not expecting to have a clear mind all the time, because that's not what happens. But the more you notice your thoughts and then let them go, and then the next thought comes in and you do that, eventually the thoughts become less and less. The noise that you were talking about inside your head becomes less and less, and you become more centered and grounded.
I love that. One of my favorite books that I've read in 2020 is by Robin Sharma, talking about the monk who sold his Ferrari. It's a game changer. I've read it several times.
Yeah.
And it's a game changer in my life. So if you're out there and you're watching, go get it. It's a great book. But one of the things that he talks about is taking back your own life. And it's key, because it's so easy if you're building a business as an entrepreneur. We have a lot of entrepreneurs watching. That's one of the big things, is like, it's so easy to get caught up in your business. And I come from a Silicon Valley background. So founders of companies just work. It's like, I work. And then you go and you turn on social media, and I'm not picking on you, Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, mad love to both of you, but those guys will be the guys on there like, you need to work 7 days a week, round the clock. If you're sleeping and you don't have 6 figures in your bank, you're wrong. And I'm like, but that's not healthy, because my value of things that I put into the Eric bank, besides Eric's mental health and how Eric feels, is making sure my 2 kids that live in my home still, they're taken care of. And I mean, they're older, they're teenagers, they can do about, but I like spending time with them, because they're going to leave the house and go to college, and then I'll be just my wife and I, and that'll be the first time wife and I, and it's going to be like, hey, what are you doing? I mean, we're going to be like Joey on Friends, like, hey, how you doing? I mean, that's what it's going to end up here in 4 short years in the Mitchell household. I think a lot of people struggle with taking the time for themselves. So do you have any tips for how people can get into meditation? Because I know people, before we go with this, Pam, I know a lot of people who are like, oh, meditation. Ooh, that means, everybody thinks you got to sit there with your legs crossed, hand. Yes,
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I do that, actually, and I love that, but that's not the only thing there.
I do several forms of it. I do that. We have a infrared sauna that I lay in, and I plug in my headphones.
Me too.
Another mad shout out, hopefully I'll get a sponsorship. Peloton has one of the best meditation apps on the planet. I love them. Obviously we own Peloton products, but we really get into it, and there's different ways and they talk about it, and I love that. So I'd love for you to kind of Well, let's talk about meditation, because to me it's so key. It's something I do every
Okay.
morning and every night. How can
Me too.
people kind of jump into it? Because some people are going to go like, time for myself? And it's like meditation isn't a 45-minute thing. Like you grow to that. Like I do 45 minutes. That's kind of my thing. But 5 minutes, you could do a 5-minute meditation and you're cool. Like you got to start somewhere. Kind
You
of
could
break
do a
that down.
1 minute. You could do a 1 minute meditation. I mean, I used to teach a class, and I would go in and we'd start with just 1 minute. The class wasn't on meditation, but I kind of wanted to get people present, and I would get everyone centered and do this 1 minute. And I'd be keeping my eyes open because I just wanted to get a feel for the room. And what I'd see is people like this and 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 itching and everything for 1 minute. They couldn't even sit still. It was the most painful thing for them. And I think that says a lot about where we are right now. And I think the most important thing is to find something you love to do. So sometimes my meditation is getting in my bed, lying down, putting my AirPods on and listening to music, not even meditation music, but just regular music, and zoning out and thinking and trying to release and kind of let the day kind of wash over me. You could also, there are so many great apps, but like if you just want to go on YouTube, there are certain kinds of brain waves that literally scientifically take your brain waves down or lift them up. They're alpha, beta, gamma, delta, theta waves, and you just look up which one you would resonate with you or what you're looking for. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I'm sure you know who he is. Check him out on Instagram. He has some great meditations. Paul Santisi, but washing your dishes. Yeah. Instead of dreading washing your dishes, just say that's going to be my 10 minutes of meditation. Put your music on or don't put your music on and be really present to the moment. Yeah. Take a walk. Take a walk with your music on, without your music on. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's about giving yourself several minutes of time to yourself, not on the phone with someone else, not helping someone else, so your mind can kind of connect to you. And it doesn't matter. What I hear a lot from people when I'm doing lives on Instagram is, but there's so much noise in my mind, my thoughts, my thoughts, my thoughts. The only way to get through that noise is to let it come in. So I think people are always hearing what the end result for meditation is, which is the quiet mind. That's good. Let's say you're 20 years old or 30 years old. So you've had 20 years of noise. You think in 1 week you're going to get rid of 20 years of noise? I don't think so. So you need to give it a lot of time. But again, you don't have to give it a lot of time in the exact moment. It doesn't have to be 45 minutes. Do 5 minutes a day. I promise you, 2 weeks of 5 minutes a day, you'll feel the difference. You can't know it until you try it. And what we do is we do it for a day or two. And then it's not even that we give up. We living in awareness and we go back to our old patterns. And then day 5, we remember, oh my God, I stopped meditating. I'm such a failure. No, just get back and do it again. And you start over right there. And then it's going to happen again. And you're going to forget and you're going to forget for a few days. But it's like when you're on a diet, you then fall off the wagon and you binge. You don't need to binge. Or if you binge, the next day get back on it. You don't have to think you failed at everything. Just keep going. It's a journey. It's a process. It's not a destination.
And I think a lot of people that goes with the mindset, right? I mean, 2020 is very difficult, and I know a lot of business people struggle with it. Obviously, 41 million Americans unemployed. A lot weighs on your mind. So, I mean, keeping a positive mindset, we're going to pivot from meditation because I could go down a rabbit hole talking about meditation for a long time, because to me, everyone out there, it's a game changer in my life. And to piggyback on last comments from my side, I actually set time in my calendar. That's what I do to make sure I'm guaranteed my time for it. I mean, it's great. My kids are older, like I said, so nobody really bugs me. It's like,
But even if your kids are young, I mean, my kids were young, they would meditate with me. Yeah. So I would bring them in, and I mean, I think if you can start your kids on it young, and it's okay if they don't want to close their eyes, or okay if they get up and make some noise for a minute. Like, it's not about like it being perfect, but getting people used to the idea of meditating, getting accustomed to it.
I think that's key. No, you're good. No, and I was also going to say the other thing that we did, which is interesting, my wife made fun of me, and now she's like, oh, it's kind of cool, is I changed all the lighting that we basically had around. So we use a lot of LED lighting just because it's amazing how a color change, right? We're using, as I'm squinting at bright white lights shining in my face, you know what I'm talking about because you have lights shining on you. But it's amazing how you change lighting to even incorporate when you're watching TV together as a family or reading, having the light change to a different color, it just sets
Mhm.
your brain. And it's funny how your brain works. Like I never deep dove into my own skull a couple years to understand really what made me tick and go, wow. Because overhead. Your Facebook instead of sleep. Can't hard time to kind of set their mind right so they could put themselves in a positive light. Because one thing I hear, just so you know, one of the biggest things I hear is I see I see have jobs or whatever. That does wear on you, especially if you have kids. And then there's a great book called
Two very good pieces of advice,
Yeah,
though.
that's what I got for you. That's Eric advice. Again, not a doctor, but my advice. So what's your advice? I'll go to the expert for advice. Don't ever quote Eric
Well,
on expert advice, but
there are a few things I would say. First of all, I don't, after I say, before I say all those things, I do want to say this. So I'm going to come up with these things and be like, oh, do this, do that, and all upbeat and everything. But that doesn't mean that I don't understand how difficult it is. And maybe I haven't been in the situation you're in during COVID, but I've been in dark places, and I can promise you that. And so I think, first of all, it is hard to see other people spending money, but having a former career, very successful career in real estate, I know most people are house poor. So just because they're spending the money doesn't mean they have it, and you're being smarter by not and doing what you need to do until you get back on your feet. That's number one. Just want to give you credit for that. Yeah. Two, I think it's really important to create a routine. This is a very not solid, I'm trying to think of the word, but time. It's very watery. It's very uncomfortable, and we don't have anything to grab onto. When you have a ritual or routines to work within, you create structure for yourself. Right now, what's your morning looking like? What time are you getting up? I don't care what time you get up. It could be 10 a.m. passion, put an hour working towards that. When are you doing your meditation? When are you doing your exercise? Food prep so you have healthy food. You may not be able to control getting a job at this moment, but you can set yourself up for success. So when that job comes your way, or you create that job because of all the steps you're taking and the structure you're creating for yourself, you're going to be ready. You're not going to be like, oh, I just ate bonbons and drank milkshakes and watched Netflix for the past 6 months during the pandemic. You will have been taking steps to get yourself in an even better place than you currently are, because the only thing we can control is ourselves. You have total control over how you feel about things, how you act towards things, how you move forward, regardless of what's going on outside of you. So take that control and create a routine or a ritual for yourself.
I love that answer, because that's good, because you need to do that. So many people, how many people have come up to me and they kind of cringe at my wife, and they're like, have you watched all these shows? And we're like, I'm like, the only thing we really watch, to be brutally honest, and back, but frankly, we don't get into all these series. And I did watch the Golden State Killer, which had Michelle McNamara, and told her, talk about a mindset, right? She wrapped her brain around trying to find this killer. It actually cost her life because she became so obsessed with it. So it was interesting prepping to interview you, at watching at the same time, and hearing folks who are like talking about a mindset, because here is a beautiful woman who had a very great life, and she became obsessed with this Golden State Killer, and it just took over everything. And she went from this person who was, they have all of her text messages and they're showing it, and it's crazy when you think about it, how people get that way. And then I was going, wow, there's a lot of people, period, that are that way. About the election. I mean, there are people who are obsessed, and I'm like the one on social going, y'all know this isn't like a sport or like a celebrity. It's just the president. Like, we change him every 4 to 8 years around here. It's like you're investing a lot in somebody who's not going to invest back in you. It's how I feel about worshiping athletes. I mean, yeah, we work with them, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I mean, now that I'm around them, I'm like, hey, you're just a human. You're just another guy who puts on his pants the same way I do. Yeah, you probably have a couple more zeros in your bank account, but you're still human. You still deal with it. So I think that's another thing. A lot of people don't realize that. They look at all these people and idolize these people and understand they all have mental diseases or mental disorders. One of the big ones, especially in the NBA and local to where I'm at here in Portland, is Kevin Love. Kevin Love has come forward and talked about his bipolar disorder. And why we're going to speak about bipolar, how about the one that is the biggest name, Kanye West? There's a guy who's publicly melting down, and people are like, why aren't you coming out and attacking him? I'm like, I feel awful for him, because he can't control it. I mean, it's hard. When you have a disorder and you don't know how to function, people will rather ridicule than help you. And you almost feel sorry for them.
I also think it's important to note all those people that you admire, not you, but like that you're talking about, that everyone admires and wonders how they get to be where they are. They were once you.
Yeah.
They were once each of us. And those just people decided to get their mindset in a certain place and to go for it and to ignore the challenges and just keep pushing forward. But they're no different than me or Eric or anyone else that's watching this. It's just they made a decision to do something different than we do or you do. And I also, if you don't mind me saying, to Eric's point about Netflix and just watching all the time, definitely. But you also have to take care of yourself. And at night, you want to watch 1 hour of Netflix or a little bit of Netflix, or you need a day to decompress and watch it. That's cool. Just don't live there.
Yeah. I like that. And one of the challenges I did, Pam, and it's my favorite, and I challenge everybody, is I go, what books are you reading? I'm an avid reader, and I always tell people that. And it's funny how people are like, I put out a survey actually on Facebook, and it was put in order of what you do. And it was books, movies, podcasts, and music. And mine was books, music, podcasts, and kind of movies together, because I'd rather read and listen to. I'm an avid. I mean, I love Spotify. I actually converted over recently. So, completely side note, converted back over to Spotify. Original user with them. I just love their library, and it's amazing because you can get some podcasts on there too at the same time.
Yeah.
But I was amazed by the number of people who put movies first. Like, it blew my mind because I'm like, wow, I love reading. Like, I can't stop. I mean, we have Kindle Unlimited. I mean, we have an Amazon bookstore and a Barnes & Noble. I will buy a book every time we go buy it. My kids will too. I mean, we went on vacation recently. I read 5 books in 2 weeks. I mean, I just love reading. And I'm amazed by people that still haven't found it. Like, oh, I don't like reading. And I'm like, but sitting in front of a TV, what is that? I just don't see the benefit behind it. So what's your thoughts on that? I mean, how do you encourage people to kind of change those habits? I know it's just you have to continue. It's repetition, right? I mean,
I think it is, but I also think it's finding the right book. Everybody connects with a different author. Everyone connects with a different style. And when you find a book that you don't like, it's really hard to think that there actually is a book that will resonate with you out there. Yeah. But when you find a book that does resonate with you, it's like, oh my God, how have I not been reading all this time? Yeah. So it's really, you got to just keep on going till you find the right author and the kind of book that speaks to you. Like, someone might like Anthony Robbins while someone else might like spiritual, like Gary Zukov or Eckhart Tolle. They're both awesome, but very different audience.
Yeah. And I tell people that all the time because I've shown my books, and when I'm interviewed from my other desk for TV, it shows a lot of my books, and off air I've heard producers go, can you read those books that are in order? And I'm like, and I can see them from where I'm at, and I'm like, oh yeah, because you could see right next to, the great Timothy Ferriss book, 4-Hour Workweek, is the Beastie Boys book. I'm a diehard. I love that. And then you have Everyone Writes by Anne Hadley, who I love. Then there's the Mamba book and Terminal Lance, and then there's a Frederick Douglass book. I love to educate myself, so I go grab all these big books. But I always laugh because I try to encourage people. It's funny, you and I are on the same page with that because I try to, well, what are you interested in? And even people who are very politically oriented, I'm like, did you read Mattis's book, Bolton's book? Do you pick those up? Maybe you have interest. I mean, you're quick to go quote a network. Why don't you go pick up one of those books? You could kind of learn something and not have to depend on your news. I mean, why are you getting the Cliff Notes version of your book read to you by some guy on TV who's...
I also think it's not just the generation that, like, the younger generation. I just think it's the culture we live in. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. It's the culture we live in. Everything's fast. Everything's like right here on our phones. Like, just, yep, go, go, go. No one but that's so good for brain power. It's exercising this muscle. Yep. And the nuggets that you take out will certainly help your mindset.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question. And it's funny, people going, a lot of remote workers. So let's talk about the folks who are at home. And this is a question and a conversation I've had over and over again. Now, I've been a remote worker for better part of over a decade now, from working in the Silicon Valley to every job I've had since, even consulting and now owning an agency for the past 5 years. We work remote. Our staff is always remote. When we get together, we use a WeWork. And now we don't even do that, thanks to COVID. Thank you, COVID. You're saving me money. Thank you, COVID. In a bad way, you're saving me money. But a lot of people have figured out that you no longer this 8-hour work week, right? A lot of bosses are seeing this 8-hour day doesn't really exist because people have been able to take over their time, right? Like time management. I know I can get up at 5:30 in the morning and I can crank out 4 hours of work, and that's most of my day. And I could be done working technically by 10 a.m. I could have everything done. I can monitor anything that comes in, but I still have my life. I can go to lunch. I can go work out. I can go hiking. Because again, like you said, these devices that are better than, which is scary. Did you know, actual fact, that these iPhones contain more computer power than those gigantic computers that took up the whole room that put Neil Armstrong on the moon?
That's crazy and
right?
Scary.
Right? When you think about it, like the power in our hands used to put men on the moon. And I'm like, okay, that scares me. There's a lot of power in there. But, I mean, so what do you think about this mentality? I think a lot of bosses, a lot of big companies are going to struggle. And I see the struggle. I see people like fighting this mentality. Well, you need to do an 8-hour day. And that was already, because remember, a few years ago, Timothy Ferriss was attacked for his 4-Hour Workweek book. I started practicing it and it changed, again, our business blew up because we were focused on what mattered and not waiting around a water cooler or talking about what we saw on TV that night or whatever I used to do I worked in the Silicon Valley, so we goofed off. We had video games, so honestly, I would go to work some days and feel like Jim from The Office, work about 3 hours, and then play video games with my vice president. I figured I couldn't get in trouble if I was playing with him. I mean, you're safe when you're playing with the boss. Like,
Absolutely.
We're cool, right, man? We're good. Oh, you want a sandwich? I'll go get it for you, as long as I don't have to work and I get to play video games. I'm totally down. And I get a paycheck? Let's go. But, I mean, what do you say to those folks that let's kind of talk about the management type and above. Some people are struggling. They're managers and they're like, I want my people to work, but they're getting work done in 4 hours. Is this going to be a change? Do you see this being
I
a
think
change
so.
in the workforce?
I think so. I feel like we are in a transition right now. I'm not going to argue what's going on with COVID. Everyone has
Yeah.
their own opinions and feels very strongly one way or the other. And the truth is, none of us know. We really don't know. But I do feel pretty certain about is our world is changing and we are going in a new direction. And I don't know what that direction is going to end up being, but I think we're seeing little glimpses. And this goes back to being aware and tapping in and tuning in and not just going with the flow. If you look outside of yourself, not externally, but like take the bigger picture and see what's going on, the workforce is changing. It's in transition right now where it's happening. We're in this world. People are so devastated being in it, but it's also a very cool time to be alive and see what's happening. And I do think there's going to be a lot more working from home. And I think that's going to be great for certain people like me. I've always worked from home, probably like you, because you figured out your way with it too. But a lot of people like company. A lot of people like the water cooler talk. I'm an introvert. There are tons of extroverts out there. And I do worry about them and them creating a community for themselves that's different than the community that they had at work, but they could still have a community. It's just learning how to change and adjust and go with the flow a little bit. So yes, I definitely think we're headed in a new direction in a new world.
Yeah.
And I think right now, sorry, one more thing. I think right now it feels really scary and challenging, but when we get to the other side of it, it's actually going to be better than ever.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And I mean, and I'm an extrovert, so I like being around people. Obviously, I work in media, so it's like our favorite thing in the world is to talk around people. And it was a struggle, but I guess I'm blessed. I mean, I do have 3 other human beings that live in my home, so I always have people to talk to, and I do still travel. I mean, I do, but everybody I associate with, we still travel, and I don't have a problem FaceTiming with people. It still maintains I'm still connecting with people. I'm still chatting. I do this show 5 days a week. It's wonderful. So I get to talk to people. I think a lot of people are going to struggle, and I actually think it's some of these older souls. But hear me out on this crazy thought I had with one of our Gen Z guests just last week. We were talking about how this is the first time everybody's basically in the same boat when it comes to the workforce. We were talking about this unemployment, now people coming into the remote workforce. And now Gen Z is included in this. You've got Gen Z through, what am I? I'm Gen X. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm Gen X. I love saying that. I have to remember what generation I am now. It was like, I didn't even know what the hell we were before. Now everything's defined by a generation. We didn't get a cool name like baby boomer or millennial. We got Gen X. Like, oh, that's what we came up. That's the best thing we came up with in the late 80s and 90s is we'll be Gen X. How come they get the cool name? We get the crappy name. And Gen Z, they kind of got screwed too. Like, who's after them? I don't even know what they're called. I mean, I don't have any kids that age, so I guess I don't care. But, you know, I look at it and everybody's in the same boat right now, trying to compete for the work, go do the jobs. And you're right, you hit the nail on the head talking about becoming a creative and creating your business. If you can't go find a job, a lot of people are creating businesses. More businesses have been done. And in fact, not just businesses created, but these at-home businesses, these direct sales businesses are killing it. I mean, and even home fitness. I've said this over and over again. November 2019, the #1 story on any business channel that you turned in, Peloton makes a crucial mistake. Who's going to buy a Peloton? They just totally whatever. And I was like, that commercial was great. I mean, I'm a Peloton rider, and I love their instructors, and they're probably the most motivating human beings I get to be around every day. Peloton's winning that race, and then we saw Lululemon snatch up Mirror. I mean, you're seeing all these brands, and I'm telling people, you've got to go create space and go do those jobs that you used to be like, well, I'm not going to do that direct selling. Go do it because people are making real money, because people are buying things at home, because if they could get it, they're going to support it and they're going to do it.
I have 2 teenagers that open like 3 online businesses like that.
Right?
Yeah. It's a great
crazy
time for that stuff. And if you're home and you're lonely and you're feeling kind of down, immerse yourself in something like that. Learn it. It'll give you something to do and it'll give you purpose.
Yep. And they're all very good at team building. And that's what I've been telling people, because I've had people come to me and they're very down. And, you know, my wife is the CEO of our company, which is great. But I mean, she started her own business because she got bored doing ours because we have so many people doing it. she's like, hey, do you mind? Because we're the founders of the company. So obviously we've been in business for a while. So she's like, I got people on the team that could go handle half my stuff. I want to go do this. And I'm like, go, whatever makes you feel good, because she likes being around people. And I hear them. They're on these Zoom calls. They're laughing. They do these wine
Totally.
things.
Happy hours.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I don't understand what they're talking about. Usually it just sounds. I feel like Al Bundy sometimes, like on Married with Children, where it's just like, I'm like, God, they're just in there hating on men, it sounds like, and I just kid. I'm like, hey, no bashing on those. There's 2 of us in this house, and we don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't get on a call and say what I want to say. But I just think a lot of people need to fix their mindsets, and I think that's why I wanted you on, is kind of give folks, like, number one, you're not alone. Don't think like I'm the only one who's, Debbie Downer, as my 16-year-old likes to say. Oh, Debbie, don't be a Debbie Downer.
No, most people are like in that space. But it's not so much about fixing the mindset. It's just about noticing it and making adjustments. Like when you think about fixing it, it's as if it's, and I know you weren't using this word, but I think people tend to say that about themselves. But you're not broken. It's just growing and evolving and knowing there's something different, and it's not just, oh, Pam or Eric can have this because they're different from us and they're able to. We are all the same, and we all have the same different abilities, but the same level of abilities. And so anyone can do it. It's just about deciding that you want to.
So one of my last questions for you is this, and I've lived this, and now I'm on the other side. And I hear it now more than ever. And I had to chuckle because we have, from our first marriages, we both have 23-year-olds. So we hear their griping, because, the life of a 23-year-old is, it's hilarious now, because I'm like, man, I've been there, done that. When I was 23, I was in the military. You want to talk about your life sucking? Go join mine. We had short hair and got yelled at every day. Willingly. We got paid to get yelled at.
Yeah,
I mean,
you chose it.
Yeah, I could even eat McDonald's every day, and I still had a perfect figure. It was wonderful. The Marine Corps made sure of it. It's like, McDonald's, you're good, bro. We'll just go for a 5-mile run. You're cool. Thank you. It's Marine Corps. But my point is this. A lot of people have this issue when they see other people. They get this FOMO thing, right? Fear of missing out, or they want what the next guy has. They see the people traveling. They get it in their head, like, I want to be this person. And I used to be that guy. I used to be like, man, that person cheated to get there, or they got lucky to get there. This is crap. This is supposed to be a pandemic. They're not supposed to be successful. It's not supposed to be the life that these folks are living. How is Eric, and I'm picking on myself here, how is Eric able to have a team of people do the work where he talks about being a coach instead of a quarterback? And I try to explain it, and maybe you can help me on this. I explained it. I worked my you-know-what off to get to where I'm at. And I had to be the quarterback, wide receiver, blocking, running back. I had to do all the jobs. And I got to the point through lots of hard work, but I also freed up space in my head because I did waste a lot of time and losing sleep. How did that guy get it and I don't have it? Why does he have the nice car and I'm driving the beat-up Honda Accord? So what advice do you have to, and a lot of people have it, because I hear it. I hear the kids, it sucks being 20. I gotta, my paycheck, taxes and insurance and gas and, living paycheck to paycheck. I'm like, dude, welcome to your 20s. I don't know what to tell you. Shit, most of your 30s, you could live that same way. I don't know. That's just how it is. And then you kind of cross into your 40s and you learn from your mistakes. What is your advice to so many folks out there that have this mindset, I don't even know if it's a mindset, this kind of block where it's like they focus so much on other people's success that it drives them crazy, that almost makes them make mistakes to be like those people?
Well, first of all, the more you can love on their success, the more success is going to come your way.
Yep.
Love your people. Love the people you don't even like. It's all about sending love out there. That's number one. Number two, most of it's smoke and mirrors. If people looked at my life now or even 15 years ago and well, I don't know, it wasn't 15 years ago, but there was a point where I was in the middle of a divorce, 3 kids, single mom. People still thought my life was perfect. Thought I had everything. It's smoke and mirrors. I may have had one thing that you wanted, but 5 things you wouldn't have wanted. And you may be surprised to know that I was looking at you and the one thing that I wanted you had, but you weren't focused on that. You were focused on the 4 things you didn't have. And so you can always compare yourself to someone else and find something that you want that you don't have. It's like we compare our don't compare your insides to someone else's outsides. As long as you are a good person inside, stay focused on yourself, stay in your own lane, and use the stuff that you see that you think they have as motivation to get it for yourself.
Yeah.
You're creating a story about themselves based on what they're telling you, what they're putting on social media, and everything else. None of it's real. It's the own narrative in your own head. So get to know yourself, get to know what you want, create a vision board, start meditating, start manifesting it. And manifesting it doesn't mean you think about it, make a vision board, and it appears in your life. It means every single thing you do is eat, breathe, and sleep that thing that you want, and you bring it into your consciousness before it actually becomes into your reality. And as you bring it into your consciousness and act the part more, and play the role more, it becomes your life. So focus on that.
I love that you said that. I love it. Manifestation is something, I'll be honest, and you can pick on me. When my wife first told me about it, she's like, you should manifest that. And of course, I was the typical me. I was like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then I did it, and then things started happening. I was like, holy crap, I manifested that I wanted this, this, and this to occur. And I started getting positive thinking all the time. And now it's become something like this show, as a bragging right to the show, as many of our listeners know. In 120 days, we went from a YouTube channel to we've been picked up by a major network. Mind-blowing, because my mindset was, this is kind of what I wanted to do. And it was all based off of John Krasinski's little YouTube show that he created. We launched about the same time as him. And I watched him and I didn't have a negative thought about it, but like 3 weeks after we launched, John's show got picked up by CBS for a lot of money. Ours did not get picked up for the CBS money. I wish we did, because then I would have.
But that's all right. It got picked up.
But it got picked up. But I was very positive, and I kind of chuckled, going, "That's a different Eric," because before I would have been like, that sucks." Instead, I was like, "That's awesome. That gives me hope that if his show got picked up, and we're kind of doing the same thing, but more focused on entrepreneurs and veterans and just awesome people like yourself, we can make a difference." And it did. And that's where I believe this manifestation, and people need to go do that and learn more about that. So that leads me to our final thing. How do folks learn more about it? Obviously, you're the person to talk to about it. So this is the shameless self-plugging portion of the show.
Okay.
So please plug away. But how do folks learn more about what we've talked about today? Meditation, manifestation, all the M's. We'll run down those words, but kind of tell folks how they can get a hold of you and where they can learn more.
Okay, well, so first, I have a book coming out. I'm not sure if it's going to be late fall, early spring. It's called Hope You're Having a Great Day. I know I am. Check it out. It gives a lot of tips and tools to create your own reality and have the best life that you could possibly have. I am on a mission here to inspire and motivate others to live their very best lives. I'm not attached to it being from me or someone else, so I'm going to give you some other areas to go to. But check me out on Instagram, @PamChristian with 2 N's at the end. thepamchristiangroup.com, and you can, Facebook, LinkedIn, but Instagram and my website are the best 2 places. And then I would say go Google mindset and books. Carol Dweck is awesome. She talks about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. It's really finding people, leaders, influencers that have the mindset that you want, and then getting to know them and what they do to encourage that and to keep that going for themselves. Podcasts are great. I have one where I interview people who talk about their journeys, how they came from very dark places, and they're well-known people, and how they got to the success they got, like David Meltzer, for example. Or Jay Sean, the singer who used to sing Down, love him. And that's my podcast, The Juice. But other people's podcasts, every day, just go on YouTube and type in morning motivation and listen to a 2-minute video. Just do things that are going to change the tone in your mind. But it can be quick 1-minute, 2-minute things. It's everywhere. It's about changing your lens and deciding you want it. It's not about where to go find it. It's about deciding you want it. And once you decide you want it, you're going to find it. And of course,
love it.
Eric's show. I mean, this is amazing. So check it out all the time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that plug. I was gonna say what a trick that I have. Obviously, I'm gonna add your podcast to one of my daily listens. Thanks. But my big thing is I still do this at least once a week. I put on my favorite TED Talk of all time, Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek is probably one of the most inspirational humans when he talks about your why. It's not just because what his why is, but it just drives your brain to go, okay, what's my why? Why do I exist today? And truly thinking of the person to your left and your right as the most important person, because we all, like Sebastian Junger says, We're all in a tribe, and you got to find the people in your tribe that belong to you. And if they don't fit in your circle, and if they're not cheering for you when you need cheers, and they're not lifting you up when you need to be lifted up, that's not your tribe, and you need to keep moving on and keep a positive mindset, and don't worry about toxic people. Toxic people can go hang out with toxic people.
And don't worry about being alone for a little while you release the toxic people, because it's going to take some time for you to find the new tribe that he's talking about.
Oh, I love it. Well, Pam, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been great. This was a great conversation. Hopefully our audience is out there, they will all be able to connect with you. Everybody watching To The Point, we will be right back after these messages. Thank you for watching today's show. As always, if you'd like to be a guest, or you know somebody that we should have on our show as a guest, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And you can also email us if you have a complaint, want to give us kudos, high fives, or if you have an additional question for a guest. Feel free to email us again at hello@tothepointtv.com. Our Twitter is up and running, and it's for social good. Not yelling and screaming political or anything else crazy on our Twitter. So follow us on Twitter at ToThePointTV, and we'll tweet back at you. And as always, we want you to check out our IG. We love Instagram. Our Instagram stories are up, they're buzzing, and they're meant for you. We love our fans and followers, and we want you to know who our guests are coming on, and we want you to engage with us, and we want to engage with you. So make sure you're following us at Instagram at ToThePointTV. Now, we love you on Facebook, and we want to make sure, because you're probably watching this on Facebook, you're like, why would you already follow us? But tell a friend that they can come follow our show and never miss a live episode. As you know, here on Facebook, make sure you head, if you're not on Facebook watching this, then it's different, but our Facebook is To The Point with Eric Mitchell. So make sure you follow us there so you always get notified when our show goes live at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Now, for the folks over on YouTube. Now, YouTube, we love our YouTube, and our channel is growing, and we love you there. Now, if you missed the live show at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can catch the premiere, which is re-recorded. The premiere on YouTube goes down every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and simply just go do that. So remember, with YouTube, what we want you to do is smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and flick that bell. That's right, hit the bell. Give that bell some bell love, and that way you know when we're on air and you can catch our latest episode. Check out our playlist. All of them broken down by the day and guest and show, so you can always stay up to date. Once again, on behalf of the entire team here at To The Point, we want to thank you for, again, tuning in and watching our show, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on To The Point. As always, I am your host, Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point. Sit and enjoy. This is Eric Mitchell. He the host of the show. Get to the point. He is the voice. We needed this, something more. This is a daily show that's known for politics and the sports. Ain't no limit to whoever you may see at this point. To celebrities, Eric he's beast in the joint. As a veteran, put him at ease, then anoint. Every conversation can never be disappointed. Whether tragic or it's happy, Eric will cover whatever's happening. Whether it be your gymnast, toe tapping, talking about nearly any athlete, not taking a back seat. You're never gonna get it past T. Everybody running from it, it's a stampede. But he's on it like this man who took that knee. Mr. Mitchell's way too crafty.